So here is the direction page for the two chapters that you're required for listening to and or reading. Remember, you can also do this on Learning Ally. The benefit of you listening to mine is that I stop and talk about the things that I really want you to focus in on, and that would really help you with your Google form. Let's go over the directions. The top is always the same. You have until Wednesday, May 13th. Just the date has changed, and these are the journal chapters and everything else that you need to do. When you are done, you just need to submit the Google form for a grade. Okay? There are some discussion questions that I want to go over and some review from the last three chapters. If you remember correctly, on Thursday, you had three chapters to read, not two. So I want to make sure that we go over everything. So here's another great picture, actually, of a sinkhole. This is a really big one. Look at all the cars and everything else that seeps in. Crazy, right? So it says here, activities like drilling, mining, construction, broken water or drain pipes, improperly compacted soil after excavation work, or even heavy traffic can result in small to large sinkholes. This is a pretty big one, and it's showing you kind of what happened to the portables. So imagine the trailers where the kids went to school all falling into this huge sinkhole. Scary. On the paper that we did, on the direction sheet that you had on Thursday, these questions were there. And I hope that you did think about some of these things. I want you to continue to. Things to think about. What does it mean when a place has history? And it was a question on your Google form. And we talked about that places that have history often make you feel like you belong there, that somebody was there before you, that there's something about that area that makes people want to go back. Are there gangs in middle school? So a lot of you, when we had our read alouds, yeah, there are gangs in middle school. I don't think there's really gangs in our middle school. However, it seems that there are gangs in this Tangerine Middle School, which is also going to come up shortly as well. But they happen to be very good soccer players, interestingly. What does it feel like to get sent to the office at school? So some of you might have had that experience, and sometimes you get really nervous and you're kind of wondering what you did, or you know what you did and you're worried about what your parents are going to say. Lots of different emotions can come up. Paul did not know what he did, and when he went there and he saw everybody sitting there, he was very confused. When he found out it was because they vandalized the carnival, they thought that the kids did, but he knew who did. He did tell on others. He told on the kids at Tangerine Middle School, which, can come back to haunt you, because remember that Joey told him that there's gangs there. So there's definitely a little foreshadowing. I think this book foreshadows beautifully. So a lot of the things that happen always lead back to other things. What things tell about a person's character? So something we learned about Paul's character is that he's actually courageous when things go poorly. When the sinkhole was sucking all of the portables in, the trailers in, he ran to help with the eighth graders, and he was like the first one there, ready to pull people up and help people. And a lot of people would not do what he did. What he did was extremely courageous, and he's a hero. Some new vocabulary that's coming up in the new chapters. One of the words is relocation, and that's just moving to a new place. Focal point, which we're going to talk about in this first chapter, because they're going to have to relocate students because there's no portables left. Focal point is the center of activity. So when they talk about the focal point, they talk about where something began, okay? And bribery. It means given gifts or money, okay? I'm going to put a period here. And in the book, it gives three different ways of saying bribery: on the side, off the books, under the table. All three of these are illegal acts, and we're going to hear about them when we read the chapter. So it's going to use these words to describe bribery, to describe illegal activity that's been going on in Tangerine County. Something else I'd like you to think about is I want you to have visualizations. So good readers make pictures in their head when they're reading. And there was a great piece of figurative language. It said, like Godzilla had trampled through here. So I want you to think about what that might look like. Whoa, Godzilla trampling through something. And I want you to kind of picture that in your head. So when you're reading it, you kind of have that image of like a monster coming and trampling and knocking things over and destroying things. If you have a younger brother or sister, maybe they're like Godzilla when they come in your room and they take everything apart. What does it mean not to follow code? So in the book, they're going to talk about the code for the township of Tangerine, for the area of Tangerine, or for the county. And when you're building homes or you're building absolutely anything, actually, you often have to get permits. And they look at the land that you're living, that you're trying to build on, and they see if it's good for building on. It's for safety purposes. And there's a lot of legalities and there's a lot of things you have to do to follow code. So houses that might have been built, let's say in the 1960s and the 1970s, they might not be built with the same code as houses in 2020, because as years go on, the codes change. However, we're going to hear about the school and what it meant not to follow code, which was one of the problems with the sinkhole. Okay. How do you think Paul feels about his relationship with his father? Now, this isn't going to come into play till the end of the second chapter, but I do want you to think about how Paul feels about his father. Does he feel like his father loves him? Does he feel like his father pays enough attention to him? And do you think his father feels the same way Paul does? Do you think that his father knows? Maybe Paul feels that his father pays way too much attention to Eric, which we've definitely discussed. Do you think his father says, yeah, I pay more attention to Eric, I like Eric better? Or do you think he doesn't realize the way he behaves? So just some things I want you to think about as reading, because good readers think while reading, and we have to practice being a good reader. Okay, so here's our character description. Again, anything in purple is stuff that we just learned in the last few chapters, and there were 3 of them. Paul obviously is the protagonist, so we hear a lot about Paul. What was new this time was that he was upset that Carrie was with Adam at the carnival. He gets called into the counselor and principal's office after being accused of vandalizing a ride at the carnival, but tells them it was the boys from Tangerine Middle School. He acted courageously during the sinkhole incident. Okay, we didn't hear much about Eric. Mr. Fisher is forced to take the heat, okay, another example of figurative language, for the sinkhole incident because his boss was not around, and his boss is old Charlie Burns. We will be hearing about him as well. We're also going to be hearing about Mrs. Fisher in the next chapters. Who else? We're going to be Joey Costello. He likes to call people geeks. Seems to be something that he does. I don't know if he's as nice as he thinks he is. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what's going on with that, but we will find out. He gets called into the principal's office for vandalizing the carnival ride with Paul. He does not have any problem getting the kids from Tangerine in trouble since they did it and he did not. He's like, I'm not taking the blame for something I didn't do. Even though he told Paul to stay away from them, he's kind of doing something that, might not work out in the long run. But again, we'll see. He helped the 8th graders during the sinkhole incident with Paul. Okay, so he also was extremely courageous, Joey. And not much about his brother. He just is going on like life goes on. We won't be hearing from Coach Warner, I don't think. So I'm going to remove that. I don't think so. And I believe that's it. Again, if you have any questions, you're not understanding something in the story or something doesn't make sense, that can happen. Because remember that when I'm doing these, sometimes I can make mistakes here too, right? So please, please, please let me know if you see something that you're not sure is 100% right. You need help. You need to let me know about it. And there's lots of different ways that you can reach me. Here is the link for Tuesday, September 12th. Here is the link for Thursday, September 14th. And here is the link for the Google form for today. Have a great day.